Edge of extinction. The bridge of the U.S. Indomitable fell silent as the holographic display confirmed what they already knew. Humanity's greatest fleet was gone. Captain Elena Reyes gripped the armrests of her command chair, her knuckles white as she stared at the red indicators representing destroyed Alliance vessels. 200 ships, the pride of Earth's defense force, reduced to drifting debris in mere hours. Status report, she demanded, her voice steady despite the turmoil churning inside her. Lieutenant Commander Jackson at Tactical cleared his throat. The Crixian fleet continues their advance, Captain. 327 vessels by last count. They've altered course toward Mars colony. Elena closed her eyes briefly. And the Alliance fleet? 97% destroyed. The remaining vessels are in full retreat toward Jupiter's moons. Communications Officer Park's voice broke through the silence. Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Zhao. Priority Alpha. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the Admiral's face. Blood streaked his forehead, and smoke billowed behind him. The command center where he stood was in ruins, bodies visible in the background. Captain Reyes, he began, his voice distorted by static. The primary fleet is destroyed. Mars will fall within days. The Indomitable carries our last hope, the prototype Singularity drive. You must preserve it at all costs. Sir, we can still fight, Elena began. That's an order, Captain. Fall back to the Procyon system. The research team there must receive the drive data. It's humanity's only chance against the Crixian weapons. The transmission cut out abruptly, replaced by static. The bridge crew looked to their captain, fear and uncertainty on their faces. Sir, Lieutenant Rivera from Navigation spoke up. The stealth systems are functioning at optimal levels. The Crixians haven't detected us yet. We can withdraw as ordered. Elena stood, walking to the tactical display. The Indomitable was a test vessel, not a warship in the traditional sense. Built for speed and stealth, it carried experimental technology that might change the tide of the war, if they survived long enough to perfect it. What's the status of the Singularity drive? She asked. Chief Engineer Dr. Samira Hassan's voice came through the comms. The drive is stable but untested in combat conditions, Captain. Theoretical models suggest it could create localized gravitational distortions that would tear apart even Crixian hull materials, but the power requirements are enormous. Elena studied the tactical display, watching as the alien fleet began its systematic destruction of the outer Mars defense platforms. Each platform represented thousands of lives. Behind her, the bridge crew waited for her decision. Sir, Jackson said quietly, Admiral Zhao ordered us to withdraw. Elena turned to face her crew. The Indomitable carried only 73 personnel, scientists, engineers, and a skeleton military crew for this test mission. They weren't meant for combat, yet they were perhaps humanity's last, best hope. If we run now, Mars falls. Then Earth. Her voice carried across the silent bridge. The Singularity drive was built to fight the Crixians. We have it. We're here. I say we use it. One by one, she met the eyes of her bridge crew. I'm not ordering this. Anyone who wants to follow the Admiral's directive can take a shuttle. No one will think less of you. For a moment, no one moved. Then Dr. Hassan's voice came through the comms again, firm and clear. The engineering team stands with you, Captain. Lieutenant Commander Jackson straightened at his tactical station. Weapons ready at your command. Around the bridge, officers nodded their agreement. Elena felt a surge of pride, tempered by the weight of responsibility. Very well. Battle stations. Alarms blared throughout the ship as crew members raced to their positions. The Indomitable hummed as its systems powered up to combat levels. Sir, Jackson called, 5 Crixian scout ships have broken formation. They're heading our way. Elena returned to her chair. They've detected us. Navigation, bring us about to face them. Tactical, target the lead scout. The Indomitable's engines flared as it moved out of the shadow of Phobos, one of Mars' moons. On screen, the approaching Crixian scouts grew larger, their distinctive crystalline hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. "Weapons locked," Jackson reported. Elena took one last look at the tactical display, at Mars hanging in space behind them, billions of human lives, depending on what happened next. Fire. The Indomitable's particle cannons discharge, shooting beams of superheated plasma at the lead Crixian vessel. The alien ship's crystalline hull shattered on impact, fragmenting into thousands of pieces that drifted in the void. "Direct hit," Jackson announced, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. "Enemy vessel destroyed." A cheer went up across the bridge, but Elena silenced it with a raised hand. "They know we're here now. All of them." On the tactical display, hundreds of red indicators began to change course. "Captain," Communications Officer Park called out, "I'm intercepting Crixian transmissions. They're confused. They're calling us the Ghost Ship." "Good," Elena said. "Let's confuse them more." "Navigation, evasive pattern delta. Keep us moving." She turned to the engineering station. "Dr. Hassan, how soon can the Singularity drive be ready?" 20 minutes to full charge, Captain, but I can't guarantee it will work as intended. We need it faster," Elena replied. The scouts were easy. The battlecruisers won't be. The ship shuddered as the first Crixian return fire grazed their shields. "Shields at 87%, reported Ensign Chen at operations. 12 Crixian vessels approaching, cruiser class." Elena's mind raced through their options. The Indomitable was fast and had surprisingly effective weapons, but it couldn't withstand a prolonged assault from multiple cruisers. "Navigation, plot a course through the debris field of our fleet." The order tasted bitter in her mouth. "The radiation and metal will confuse their sensors." "Captain," Jackson protested, "those are our people out there. And they would want us to use everything we have to survive." Elena replied firmly. "Do it." The Indomitable banked sharply, accelerating toward the grim field of destruction where the Alliance fleet had made its last stand. Twisted metal and fragmented hulls drifted in the vacuum, a graveyard of humanity's defense force. As they entered the debris field, sensor alarms blared. "Multiple contacts," Jackson shouted. "Crixian boarding craft hiding in the debris." Elena cursed. Evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. The smaller alien vessels, camouflaged among the wreckage, launched toward the Indomitable like predators sensing prey. "Brace for impact," Elena ordered, gripping her chair as the first boarding craft slammed into their hull. The collision rocked the ship. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as atmosphere began venting from breached sections. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, Chen reported, frantically working his console. "Security teams responding, but we have boarders." Elena hit her comms. "All hands, this is the captain. Repel boarders. Engineering, continue preparing the Singularity drive." Dr. Hassan's voice came through, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire in the background. "Captain, they're trying to reach the drive. We need reinforcements. Security Team Alpha, get to engineering now." Elena ordered. She turned to Jackson. "Take a team and get down there. Protect that drive at all costs." Jackson nodded, drawing his sidearm as he rushed from the bridge. Elena turned to the tactical display. The Crixian cruisers were closing in, forming a perimeter around the debris field. They were being boxed in. Through the ship's internal sensors, she watched as her crew engaged the Crixian boarding parties. The aliens were formidable, tall, armored beings with an exoskeleton that seemed to absorb conventional weapons fire. But human ingenuity was proving effective. Security teams were using the ship's environment against the invaders, venting compartments to space or overloading power conduits to create electrical traps. "Captain," Dr. Hassan's voice returned, breathless, "we've secured engineering. The drive is charging, but we've made a discovery. The Crixians. They're not after the ship. They're specifically targeting the drive. Alina frowned. How would they know about it? Unknown, but their focus is clear. They're willing to sacrifice their boarding teams to destroy it. This changed everything. If the Crixians knew about the Singularity Drive, they feared it. And if they feared it, Dr. Hassan, can you bring the drive online at partial charge? Yes, but power output would be unpredictable. We might get one shot, or we might overload our own systems. Do it, Alina ordered. Navigation. Plot a course directly toward the lead Crixian cruiser. Rivera turned in his chair, shock evident on his face. Captain, that's suicide. No, Alina said, a determined smile forming on her lips. That's strategy. The Crixians are afraid of our drive. Let's show them why. She keyed the ship-wide comms. All hands, secure for impact. Prepare to engage the Singularity Drive on my mark. The Indomitable's engines roared to maximum thrust, pushing the ship out of the debris field directly toward the approaching Crixian formation. The enemy vessels, apparently surprised by this bold move, began evasive maneuvers. They're backing off, Chen noted with surprise. They know what's coming, Alina replied. Dr. Hassan, status. Drive at 62% charge. It's the best we can do, Captain. Target locked on the lead cruiser, announced the officer who had replaced Jackson at tactical. The Indomitable raced toward the Crixian fleet, a single human ship against an armada. On the view screen, the crystalline hull of the enemy cruiser loomed larger. All power to forward shields, Alina ordered. Engage Singularity Drive. Now. The ship lurched as unprecedented energy surged through its systems. Lights flickered, and non-essential systems went offline. At the bow of the ship, reality itself seemed to warp as the experimental drive activated, a beam of utter darkness. Not energy, but the absence of it, shot from the Indomitable toward the Crixian cruiser. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the massive alien vessel began to collapse inward, its crystalline structure bending impossibly as space-time warped around it. The distortion grew, pulling the ship into itself until, with a final flash of light, it imploded, leaving nothing but scattered particles. The bridge crew stared in stunned silence at the destruction they had wrought. It worked, Dr. Hassan whispered through the comms. The gravitational singularity collapsed their molecular structure. Alina watched as the remaining Crixian vessels halted their advance. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were hesitating. Captain, Park called from communications. I'm picking up massive transmissions between the Crixian ships. They're alarmed. A smile spread across Alina's face. Good, because we're just getting started. Defiance of the stars. The bridge of the U.S. Indomitable was a scene of organized chaos. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the faces of the crew as they worked to assess the damage from their first use of the Singularity Drive. The spectacular destruction of the Crixian cruiser had bought them precious time, but the alien fleet was regrouping. Status report, Captain Alina Reyes demanded, moving between stations. Drive systems at 23% capacity, Dr. Hassan reported through the comms. The Singularity discharge damaged our power distribution network. We need at least 30 minutes to attempt another firing. Lieutenant Rivera at navigation wiped sweat from his brow. Maneuvering thrusters operational, but main engines are fluctuating. We're mobile, but not fast. Crixian fleet is maintaining distance, Ensign Chen added, forming the containment perimeter around us. They're being cautious. Alina nodded, analyzing the tactical situation. The Indomitable had revealed its devastating potential, but now they were wounded prey surrounded by predators. The Crixians would approach carefully, but they would approach. Park, any communications from Alliance Command? Communications Officer Park shook his head. Nothing official, Captain, but I'm picking up scattered transmissions from Mars Colony. The Crixian bombardment has paused. They've diverted forces to deal with us. A small victory, Alina thought. Every moment the aliens focused on the Indomitable was another moment for civilians to evacuate and regroup. Dr. Hassan, I need options. The drive won't be ready in time. There was a momentary pause before the chief engineer responded. Captain, we've been analyzing the data from our first engagement. The Crixian's crystalline hull structure has a resonance frequency. If we modify our conventional weapons to match it, we might be able to shatter their ships with significantly less power. Hope flickered through Alina. How quickly can you implement this? We've already started reconfiguring the particle cannons. 10 minutes for the first battery. The tactical display suddenly flashed red. Captain, Chen called out. Multiple fast movers approaching from 3 vectors. They're launching fighters. Alina returned to her chair. Defensive pattern Omega. All available power to point defense systems. The Indomitable shuddered as its remaining operational weapons activated, targeting the incoming Crixian fighters. The smaller alien vessels moved with incredible speed, their crystalline structures refracting light as they approached. First wave in range, Chen announced. Fire at will. The space around the Indomitable lit up as defense turrets tracked and fired at the approaching fighters. Several exploded into crystalline fragments, but others evaded the barrage, launching crystalline projectiles that slammed into the human vessel's shields. Shields at 39%, Rivera reported. We can't sustain this level of assault. Alina keyed her comms. Engineering, we need those modified weapons now. 3 more minutes, Captain, Dr. Hassan replied, the sound of frantic work audible in the background. Another impact rocked the ship, more violent than the others. Warning klaxons blared across all decks. Direct hit to Deck 5. Chen shouted. We've lost the starboard sensor array and auxiliary life support. Alina gripped her chair as the ship lurched again. Reroute power from non-essential systems. Keep our weapons online. Captain, Park interrupted. Lieutenant Commander Jackson is reporting heavy fighting near engineering. The Crixians are making another push for the drive. Alina cursed under her breath. They needed to buy more time. Her eyes fell on the tactical display, specifically on the debris field they had passed through earlier. Navigation. Bring us back toward the debris field. Full emergency thrust. Rivera looked back in surprise. Captain, do it, and prepare for my next order exactly as I give it. The Indomitable's engines surged as Rivera complied, pushing the damaged ship back toward the floating remnants of humanity's fleet. The pursuing Crixian fighters adjusted course, continuing their assault. All hands, braced for high maneuvers, Alina announced ship-wide. As they entered the debris field, she leaned forward. Cut main engines. Rotate 180 degrees on axial thrusters. Maintain momentum. The bridge crew worked frantically to execute her commands. The Indomitable's main engine shut down, and the ship rotated using its positioning thrusters, now facing back toward their pursuers while continuing to drift backward through the debris field. Forward weapons online, Chen reported. Target the largest pieces of debris between us and the fighters, Alina ordered. Fire. The Indomitable's remaining conventional weapons discharge, not at the Crixian vessels, but at the massive chunks of destroyed Alliance ships floating around them. The impacts shattered the debris into thousands of smaller pieces, creating a cloud of high-velocity shrapnel that the pursuing fighters flew directly into. The tactical display lit up as Crixian fighters collided with the debris, their crystalline hulls shattering on impact with the unexpected obstacle. It worked, Chen exclaimed. 63% of pursuing craft destroyed or disabled. Captain, Dr. Hassan's voice came through. The modified particle cannons are online. Target remaining fighters, Alina ordered. Fire when ready. The reconfigured weapons discharge, emitting a different frequency than before. The energy beams struck the Crixian fighters, and instead of absorbing the impact as they had previously, the crystalline structures resonated, vibrating at increasing amplitude until they shattered like glass. Direct hits. All targets neutralized. A cheer went up across the bridge. but it was short-lived. The ship suddenly lurched violently, throwing crew members from their stations. Multiple impacts. Chen shouted over the wailing alarms. The cruisers have opened fire. The Indomitable's damaged shields flickered and failed under the concentrated bombardment from the larger Crixian vessels. Hull breaches opened across multiple decks, and damage reports flooded in from all sections. Engineering to bridge. Dr. Hassan's voice was nearly drowned out by the sound of explosions. We've lost containment on the primary coolant system. The drive is overheating. Elena activated the ship-wide comms. All hands, emergency evacuation protocols. Prepare to. Wait, Dr. Hassan interrupted. Captain, I can stabilize the drive, but I need to manually realign the containment field. That's a one-way trip, Doctor, Elena said quietly, understanding immediately what the engineer was proposing. I know, but the drive can be modified to create a cascading singularity effect. If we can get close enough to the main Crixian fleet, the implication was clear. One ship, one sacrifice, one chance to deliver a devastating blow that might save billions. Bridge to engineering, Elena said after a moment's pause. Proceed, Doctor. Navigation. Plot a course directly into the center of the Crixian formation. Captain, Rivera began to protest. That's an order, Lieutenant. The bridge fell silent as Rivera inputted the coordinates. The tactical display showed the massive Crixian fleet ahead, hundreds of ships that had paused their assault on Mars to deal with the troublesome human vessel. Course laid in, Rivera reported solemnly. All remaining power to engines, Elena ordered. Communications, broadcast on all frequencies. I want the Crixians to hear this. Park nodded, activating the transmission systems. Ready, Captain. Elena stood, her voice steady as she addressed not just her crew, but the enemy that had come to exterminate humanity. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Alliance vessel Indomitable. We will not surrender. We will not be conquered. Humanity does not bow before tyrants, whether they come from Earth or the stars. Remember this day. Remember what one ship, one crew was willing to do. This is not the end of humanity. It is the beginning of your reckoning. She nodded to Park, who cut the transmission. All non-essential personnel to escape pods. Launch when clear of the engagement zone. Captain, Chen said hesitantly, the escape pods won't get far. They'll get far enough, Elena replied. The Crixians will be too busy with us to worry about a few escape pods. Throughout the ship, crew members made their difficult choices. Some headed for the escape pods, carrying critical data that might help the resistance. Others remained at their posts, determined to see the mission through. In engineering, Dr. Samira Hassan worked feverishly among the sparking systems and leaking coolant pipes. Her hands moved with practiced precision, despite the chaos around her, reconfiguring the experimental drive that had become humanity's last hope. Engineering to bridge, she called. The drive is ready, Captain. When we reach the center of their formation, I'll initiate the cascade. Understood, Doctor, Elena replied. It's been an honor. The Indomitable, trailing debris and venting atmosphere, accelerated toward the waiting Crixian fleet. The alien vessels began to disperse as they realized the human ship's intent, but they were too closely packed, too numerous to all escape in time. They're firing everything they have. Chen reported as energy weapons barraged the approaching Indomitable. Stay on course, Elena ordered calmly. Systems failed across the ship as the Crixian weapons found their mark, but the engines continued to push them forward, directly into the heart of the enemy formation. 30 seconds to optimal position, Rivera announced, his hands steady on the controls despite the ship breaking apart around them. Elena looked around at her remaining bridge crew, those who had chosen to stay. No fear showed on their faces now, only determination. For Earth, she said simply. For Earth, they responded in unison. In engineering, Dr. Hassan made her final adjustments as the ship's structural integrity alarms blared around her. Her fingers danced across the drive controls, initiating the sequence that would transform the Indomitable into a weapon unlike any humanity had created before. "Singularity cascade initiating," she reported. "It's been a privilege, Captain." As the Indomitable reached the center of the Crixian formation, the Singularity drive activated one final time. Unlike the controlled beam of their first attack, this was a rupture in the fabric of space-time itself, expanding outward from the human vessel in a sphere of gravitational destruction. The nearest Crixian ships were pulled inward, their crystalline structures shattering as they collapsed toward the growing Singularity. Others further out were caught in the gravitational tide, their hulls stretching and breaking as they tried to escape the pull. In the final moments before communications failed, the Indomitable's sensors recorded something unexpected. A transmission from the Crixian command ship, not in their usual encrypted format, but on an open channel, meant to be heard. "The humans have the Great Void technology. Retreat. Retreat to safe distance. The Conclave must be informed. The invasion is suspended." Then the Singularity expanded fully, consuming the Indomitable and dozens of Crixian vessels in a sphere of absolute darkness that briefly eclipsed the light of the distant sun. 3 days later, a small Alliance scout ship discovered an escape pod drifting near the orbit of Titan. Inside were 16 crew members from the Indomitable, along with complete data from the experimental drive and recordings of the final battle. The Crixian fleet had withdrawn not just from Mars, but from the entire solar system, retreating to the edges of known space. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had breathing room, time to rebuild, to prepare, to adapt the technology that one ship had proven could change the course of the war. In the command center of the Alliance's hidden base on Europa, Admiral Zhao stood before a memorial wall where the names of fallen ships and crews were displayed. His finger traced the newest edition, U.S. Indomitable. "They disobeyed a direct order," he said to the officer beside him. "Yes, sir," the officer replied, "and they saved billions of lives in doing so." Zhao nodded slowly. "Prepare the shipyards. I want a new class of vessel. Name the prototype Reyes, and get our best engineers working on the data from the Indomitable." He turned, a determined expression on his face. "The Crixians now know to fear us. Let's make sure they never forget." Throughout the solar system, the story spread of one ship, outgunned and outnumbered, that had stood against an alien armada and won. It wasn't just a military victory. It was a message to every human fighting for survival. Resistance was possible. Victory was possible. Humanity would endure. Humanity would fight back. And the stars would remember the day when one human warship changed everything.